Hi, welcome to my video on finding the unknown values, part 2. The previous video, part 1. Find the value of k if the two lines have the same slopes. So notice in example 1, y equals 2kx plus 7, y equals 6x minus 8. Both of those equations are in the slope y-intercept form. So the slope of this line is 2k, and the slope of this line is the 6. So that's the m, and that's the b. The y-intercept is negative 8. The y-intercept is plus 7. The slope is 2k. So the two slopes are equal, so that means 2k equals 6. Divide by 2, k equals 3. Now I have to get the slope of these two equations, and they have the same slope, so I will solve them for y. Y equals negative 16x plus 10. The x goes over because we're writing the equation as y equals mx plus b. Divide by negative 2, and they cancel. Y equals 8x minus 5. And I have to also solve this equation for y. Again, I'm solving for y to get y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope. So I get a negative 8kx plus 4. The x moves over to the right side, changes sign. I divide all the terms by 4. Cancels. Y equals negative 2kx plus 1. Okay, now that means the slope of this line is 8. And the slope of this line is negative 2k. The two slopes are equal, so negative 2k equals 8, and I divide by negative 2. So that means k is equal to, it cancels, divide by negative 2, so k equals negative 4. And practice means pause your video and work these two questions out. When you get them done, hopefully you're okay and your answers will be right. So let's continue. Y equals mx plus b is the slope y-intercept form. This equation is in that form. The slope is 3k. The y-intercept is negative 2, but we're only with the same slopes. So slope of this line is 3k, and the slope of this line is negative 18. And we're trying to find k when the two slopes are equal, so 3k equals negative 18. And divide each side by 3. So k equals negative 6. K equals negative 6. Perfect. Now, if you take the negative 6 and put it back in this equation right here, 3 times negative 6 is negative 18. The two of them have the same slopes. And number 2, I have to solve the equation for y to get y equals mx plus b. So 6kx goes to the right side to become negative. The 8 is already over there. And we divide both sides, or all the terms, by 2. Cancels. Y equals negative 3kx. 8 divided by 2 is 4. And the slope of this line is negative 3k. And the y-intercept is 4, but we don't need that. And we're going to solve this equation for y. Y stays on the left, the x's move to the right. So when this x moves over, it becomes negative 3x. The plus 1 is already there, so we don't change it. 9x minus 3x is 6x minus 1. So the slope of this line is 6. And it says find k and the two slopes are equal, so negative 3k equals 6. Divide both sides by negative 3. Cancels. That's a 1. They cancel 1 and 1. Nope. And 6 divided by negative 3 is a negative 2. And that brings us to the end of this page. Let's try the next page. Find the value of k. Find the value of k if the two lines have the same y-intercepts. Well, remember, y equals mx plus b is the slope y-intercept form, so the y-intercept is b. So in this line, b is 6k. And then for this one, b is negative 30. So the two of them have the same y-intercept, so 6k equals negative 30. Divide by 6, and they cancel out. So k equals negative 5. And again, if you put the negative 5 back right here, 6 times negative 5 is negative 30. So the slopes are different. Slope is 8, slope is negative 3, but the y-intercepts will be negative 30 when k is negative 5. B, now I want the y-intercept. So there's two ways to get a y-intercept when the equation's like this. The fast way is to what? Let x equals 0. So 12, that's the fast way. So I will do it the fast way first. So that's a 0. 0 subtract 6y is 6y equals k. Divide by negative 6. So y equals negative k over 6. That's the fast way. When you let, and an even faster way, if you want the y-intercept, you just cross that out. Cross the x's out, because you're making them equal to 0. And therefore the equation becomes negative 6k equals negative 6y equals k, which is right here right away. So you don't need it. But again, another way is to solve it for y. So y equals mx plus b divided by 3. I'm doing them both ways. Y equals negative 3x plus 2/3. So you can solve it for y and get y equals mx plus b, which is, so the y-intercept here is negative k over 6. The y-intercept here is 2/3. And just to mention, and this one, I solved, I solved it for y. I got the y-intercept on the end. Right here, I let x equal 0 and solved it for y, and I got my y-intercept. So two ways to do it, your choice. And since they both have the same y-intercept, negative 6k equals 2 over 3. And we're cross multiplying. 3 times negative k equals 6 times 2. Negative 3k equals 12. Divide by negative 3. K is equal to negative 4. And this idea here is A over B equals C over D. That was in the section on ratio and proportions that I did as a topic. A times D equals B times C. Cross multiply, as they say. And that's what we're doing here. So practice means pause the video and work these out. See if you're going to get the right answers. Here we go. We want to find the value of k if they have the same y-intercept. So the y-intercept of this line or equation is, that's the slope, it's only one x, so this has to be b. And b in this one, y-intercept is 25, because the slope is negative 7. So those two y-intercepts are the same. So we make them equal. We solve for k. The 10 goes to the right side. 5k equals 15. Divide by 5. And k is equal to, the k, 5's cancel. And I get k is equal to 3. So just check. It's easy to check here. 3 in the place of k. 5 times 3 is 15. Plus 10 is 25. So we have the same y-intercepts. Number 2, we want the y-intercept here. So the fast way is cross out that y, because I'm letting x equals 0. So 16 times 0 is 0. So 8y equals k. And that means I divide by 8. So y is equal to k over 8. And I won't do this one this fast. I'll solve it for y, just to show you. So I'm solving this for y to get y equals mx plus b. Y equals mx plus b. It's nice to have options when you're doing math. And you pick an option, you say, I can do it this way or that way. So solve this for y, which I'm doing, and I've solved, divide both all the terms by 2k, and I get a y there, and I get a negative 5 over 2kx. The k's cancel here. 3k over 2k, the k's cancel, and I get 3 over 2. So the y-intercept here, this is the y-intercept on this one, which is k over 8. The y-intercept on this line is 3 over 2. They both have the same y-intercepts, so k over 8 equals 3 over 2. And again, cross multiply. 2 times k equals 8 times 3. 2k equals 24. Divide by 2, and k equals 12. And you can, if you want to check it yourself and put 12 in here and here, and solve them for y to see if they have the same y, just try it, and it'll make it true. And we have the last sheet, and we have practice marked on the sheet, which means pause the video, do one at a time, and press play to see if you're right. Do one at a time. Don't do them all. Do one at a time. Check your answers. Find the value of k if the two equations have the same standard form. And standard form is ax plus by equals c. So ax plus by equals c. A is 18, b is 20, c is 4. But we have to rewrite this equation to get it into this form. We have to remove the brackets first, so 10 times 2 is 20. Why? 10 times 1 is 10. Negative a half times 6k is negative 3kx. Negative times negative is a positive. A half of 28 is 14. And we have to write it in standard form, so the x goes over to this side to become positive. The k stays there. Don't change signs. And we got a 14 minus 10. The 10 moves over. So we have 3kx plus 20y equals 4. So notice if they're the same standard form, that means that I have a 4, perfect. I have a 20y, perfect. So that means that 3k must be the same as 18. That's the a. So I divide by 3. So k is equal to 6. So if I put 6 back here, 3 times 6 is 18. So we have it right. That's the value of k, which creates the two equations that have the same standard form. Number 3, find the value of k, or number 2, sorry. Find the value of k if the lines are parallel. Well, we know that parallel lines have equal slopes. So that means I got to solve both equations for y. Y equals mx plus b. So negative 2y equals negative 24x plus 4. I moved the 24 over to the right side. Divide all the terms by negative 2. Cancels. Y equals 12x minus 2. So that means y equals mx plus b, so the slope of this line is 12. Now we solve this one for y, so 6y equals negative 18kx minus 6. Moves over to the right side, become negative. This doesn't change sign because it didn't move. Divide all terms by 6, so y equals negative 3kx minus 1. So the slope of this line is negative 3k. Excuse me. And parallel lines have the same slopes, so that means negative 3k equals 12. Divide by negative 3, and k is negative 4. Parallel lines have equal slopes, so those two slopes, you make them equal and solve. And again, if you put the 3k is equal to 12, we put a negative 4 back in, it should work out to be parallel lines. If you solve these equations for, you got to solve the equations for y to get the same slopes. putting the negative 4 back in here will give you a negative 72x. But that's a 24. So you have to solve this equation. Both after you put the negative 4 back in here to check, you have to solve the equation for y to get the same slopes and reduce the fractions. Find the value of k if the lines are perpendicular. Well, perpendicular symbol, perpendicular lines have, I'm going to call it negative reciprocal slopes, or some people might say opposite. So you got to get the negative of the number and do the reciprocal, flip the fraction into a fraction. So that means we have to get the slope, so we have to solve for y. Y equals mx plus b. So here we go. 5kx becomes negative, divide by negative 3, negative 3, negative 3, cancels. Y is equal to 5k over 3x plus 3. Solve this equation for y. Negative y equals negative 9x plus 18. And that's understood to be a 1, so I'm dividing by negative 1. A lot of people would just change the signs, but I divide by negative 1 to show you. 9x minus 18. Perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal slopes. Now I can do two things. The slope of this line is 5k over 3. The slope of this line is 9. So perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal slopes. So this slope is 9. So the negative reciprocal is change the sign and flip it upside down. Now that means that 5kx must be negative 1/9. Must be 1/9. So because they're not equal, like up on parallel lines, they're reciprocal. Get the reciprocal of the number is the best thing. Easiest to get the reciprocal of the number. If you get the reciprocal of this one, it's still the same. It's a negative reciprocal. This one would have been a negative 3 over 5k. Negative 3 over 5k. Now we cross multiply. So we get 9 times 5k equals 3 times negative 1. 45k equals negative 3. Divide by 45. And k, they cancel. And that's a negative. 3 and the 3 goes once. 3 and the 45 goes 15. So k is a negative 1 over 15. That will make these equations have negative reciprocal slopes. The two lines will be perpendicular. So that's finding the extra values of k. That was part 2. And if you like, click my like button. If you're not a subscriber, you can hopefully subscribe to my channel because I explain all the topics fully explain. And click the notification bell because more videos are coming. I'm reviewing through grade 9 and grade 10 and grade 11, so on, so on. Write a comment on my video if you wish. Visit my math website, www.mathfullyexplained.com. 3 sections. Me section talks about my degrees and teaching experience. Section on video talks about the strategies you're going to use to help you learn your math. And the section on content talks about the topics and the number of videos on those topics that I have on my YouTube channel. The black font is what's online right now, and the red font is what will be online in the near future. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.